show something is going to be, something that is going to affect the potential of him getting signed, plain and simple. So, awesome point. All right, so like I said at the beginning of the show, I was able to interview Richard Lynch. Richard Lynch is in the Independent Country Music Hall of Fame. I know it's different to the show, something that I don't normally do, but he reached out and I thought it would be a great opportunity to interview him. So it is a pre-recorded interview, but check out this interview here with Richard Lynch. And then right after that, we will get into some more talk. We'll be talking with Bobby Del Rio. He is a actor, writer, filmmaker, producer, huge NBA fan. So we'll be talking NBA here in a moment. So stay tuned. We'll get into this interview with Richard Lynch. And we are back in the BS3 Sports Show. And we got a very special guest, Richard Lynch, who is a member of the Independent Country Music Hall of Fame, the first country artist on this show. So it is a great pleasure to have you on the show. How's it going, Richard?
Well, Ben, I am so thankful to be on board with you, and I didn't realize I was your first one as far as a country star. I sure appreciate it immensely.
Definitely, yeah. I'm not that much into country, but I've heard a lot of your music, and you're starting to bend my ear. So
I'll take that.
So you've been in country music for a long time. You recently just came out with your latest album, Mending Fences. And where was that recorded, and what are some of the guests that you have on that album?
Well, Mending Fences was recorded in Nashville, Tennessee. Mr. Edgerald Groves and Randall Smith are the producers on that album. And two of the nicest guys and two of the most genuine fellows I've ever worked with, and they actually, the proof's in the pudding, I guess you might say. They are so good at what they do. I'm so thankful that I got to be around them and to work with them guys in the studio. They are second to none, and they put me in an environment where I got to play with some of the most amazing musicians in Nashville. Some of the talented guys are worked with all the big stars and everything, and so it made me step up my game there, Ben. I thought, well, man, if these guys are going to be that talented and that great on my album, I got to do the best I can do.
Right, and that's what you want. You want to work with someone that'll be able to, take you to that next level in your music and push you, to the next level. So that's definitely the people you want around you. Absolutely, and the best thing about it was they treated me so good. We got in the studio, we knuckled down, and the music was so well written and so well delivered, and it made my job a whole lot easier. When you always want to do as good as you possibly can. So sometimes I feel like I put my stress on myself, and I think that's a good thing because you always want to strive to be better. Right. That's so true. And it's great to have people in your corner and people that you work with that helps you with that. Now, was there any funny stories during the recording of the album? I'm sure there was.
Well, most of the time they were laughing at me because, I'm like, holy cow, I can't believe these guys are this incredibly talented, and they're all sitting back there like, wow, because they do this every day, and they're incredibly talented at what they do, and so they kind of made fun of me. I'm not in the studio very much, and so to be in there and to be around them guys, they kind of laughed at me a little bit, and I laughed at myself. But if you do good and you learn from everything you do, this was my third nationally recorded album. So every time I like to think that I'm doing a little better, and if you're around great musicians and you strive to be better, eventually you're going to be always going to learn something every time I'm in the studio.
Right, definitely. I wish I was a musician. There's so much that I respect in musicians and writing music, being able to sing the music. And then the other part is when you perform, you remember all those songs, which it just seems like for me, I would probably end up forgetting something.
Well, we spend a lot of time. I've got a great bunch of guys that I play music with on the road, and we've been playing together for a long time. And as soon as the album came out, which was back in April, we all knuckled down and we learned, I think 4 or 5 songs relatively fast. And, of course, that we're doing them quite often in our show. And I'm talking about the 4 or 5 songs that was on the new album. And people ask me, well, why don't you use your band members and so forth, to record in your albums? And there has been times years ago that I've done that, but I come to realize that if you're in the caliber that we are now, and you're running with the big dogs, you gotta get in the studio, and you gotta make sure that your time and money is well spent. And these guys get in there, and they are so incredibly talented at what they do. Not that my band members aren't talented, but they sure make life a whole lot easier when you're in the studio with these guys that are so good and so pro. This makes my life a whole lot easier.
Right. And that kind of leads into the next question. The Cut and Paste is the latest video that was out from you, and it's a very true song. I mean, I'm about 35, almost 35. I'll be 35 in October, and it is so true that it's hard to be friends or hard to talk to people in person now because there's so much technology that I think is taking us away from really what life is supposed to be. But describe what this video and song is about.
Well, I think you nailed it. Everybody gets really busy with their lives, and if they can save time with the device and so forth, they do it. But ultimately, if you don't have some interaction with people and you can't reach out and talk with somebody, you're not doing yourself or them much of a service either. So, in the video, me and my wife, we talked her into being the the actress that we tell her she's the star of the video. And when you're in that environment, and you can realize that there's so much truth written in these words, and so many people connect with it for the simple reason that technology has taken over a lot of our life. And I'm not very tech savvy myself. I'm a farm boy, and I do a lot of things here. And thank goodness I have my wife and the folks that are in Nashville that do a lot of our promotions and so forth. But I know how necessary it is to have it. But I kind of chose to go the other direction. I'm the old school dinosaur guy. I'll pick up a phone and call somebody. About as high tech as I get these days.
I hear you. It is, and sometimes I have to remind myself that call the person, call that family member that you haven't talked to in a while, call that person that is on your mind, because a text message may not be enough. That person may just want to hear your voice. So that goes a long way, and I think that song speaks to exactly what you and I just said.
Right. The relationships today are strained anyhow, and if you don't have a chance to reach out and actually physically talk to somebody, there's a whole lot of room for someone to be misunderstood or something in that direction. So there's nothing better for me than to be able to talk with somebody one-on-one, a phone call or in person, and then where you stand at that point.
Right. That's so true. So you've been in the music business a long time. What keeps you driven and motivated to keep making music, keep performing, and just keep inspiring people through your music?
Well, I'm really inspired these days because I see that there's a lot of folks that have taken a huge interest in our music. I think it's just for the fact that we've kept a traditional sound. We've got brand new music, and we've got a modern topic, and we got all the great bells and whistles from all the modern studio musicians and so forth. But it's got that traditional flavor to it. It's got that steel guitar and some fiddle and some harmony and some lyric that folks can relate with on these songs. And I think that, a lot of folks are really pulled to that just for the fact that they want something more simple and want something that they can relate with in their life, and they're more accustomed to it. I'm not one to, to put down what anybody else does, but I really think that country music has gone too far, too pop these days, and therefore a lot of folks are looking for something more traditional sounding, and I'm thankful that they're gravitating toward me. I love the traditional music. I was born and raised in it, and really that's what I want to do. And I'm really thankful that folks are starting to, come around and gravitate toward that music with me.
Right. And I can definitely see that. You see a lot of artists who are described as country, but their music is more of a pop style. And I'm sure there's a lot of people that just wants to hear that traditional country music. And that is something that you definitely have, 100%.
Well, thank you. I was born and raised in a country music family. My dad was an incredible singer and entertainer, and I grew up around, hearing that traditional sound every morning. I get up out of bed. Dad would be at the kitchen table, and he'd have his radio going on in the kitchen, and then they'd be playing Merle and Hank and George and Conway and all those wonderful artists of that era. And I knew at a young age that's something that I loved, and I'll never forget this. The first time I was ever on stage, I mentioned my dad was a performer. He was playing an outside concert in Dayton, Ohio. And I got to go with my mom and dad, and I'm in the audience there. Me and my mom was sitting there watching my dad perform. And unbeknownst to me, he looked down to my mother and said, "Sit that boy up here." So Mom got me to go up on the stage, and I sang an old Buck Owens song for the first time in my life, and the crowd went over really well with the crowd, and I guess you might say I was bit pretty early by the country music bug. So one of my favorite memories of growing up.
Yeah, and that's a great memory to have, and kind of where it all started. And fast forward to now, once again, we're talking to Richard Lynch. He is a member of the Independent Country Music Hall of Fame. How did that come about, being a part of that prestigious group of people?
Well, there is a lot to be said for, just dumb luck. We recorded our first nationally recorded album. It was called Last of a Dying Breed. And I had 9 totally original songs on there and one remake of an old country standard that I grew up listening to. Well, somebody was just thumbing through my album, a DJ, and they looked down and they seen all the titles, and they recognized the song called Just Walk On By, which is an old country classic from the early 60s. And I kind of took the tempo up a little bit and kind of give it my own little flavor. And he started playing it. And the next thing you know, it's being sent to some people that are influential, especially in the traditional music. And within this, I would say a short amount of time, within 6 months or 7 months of having the album recorded, somebody had sent this to the Country Music Independent Hall of Fame. They said, "This guy has been playing music for all these years. We're just finding out about him right now. Listen to this music." And so within just a short amount of time, the fact that I got to be put in the Independent Hall of Fame was because I put some music on there that the folks related to. And luckily enough, it was just up the country music genre's Hall of Fame, but just up their genre, just enough to where they want to be impressed with it. And the fact that I've been playing all them years, they went ahead and they said, this guy, this is exactly what I want to produce and promote. And so I was lucky enough to be on my first album, nationally released album, inducted into the Independent Hall of Fame. So I was really, really blown away with that particular achievement.
Yeah, I mean, that is the highest of the high, to be in any type of Hall of Fame, especially independent